Hey, so I think I'm broadcasting. I'm not totally sure, but you can let me know by sending me a comment, and I'll pop it into the screen. This is Andy Revkin, trying something new and goofy, and hopefully useful. I'm going to be using this portal, which theoretically broadcasts to Periscope on Twitter, to Facebook and YouTube, and other platforms in the end. To offer some clarity and build a community around ways to have social cohesion and impact, even as we have to practice social distancing. Meaning, I would really much rather be out in the world right now, and I do spend time out in the world, like you do. But I think we're at a moment when there's a great opportunity to use connectivity online to get some progress in the actual world. There's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of distraction and confusion, but I see unbelievable activity, really exciting pop-up solutions to the challenges we are all facing. Teachers are self-organizing. I'll show you an example. So this is like showing you the noisy part of Twitter here, which is just the flow. But oh, good. I've just been told that I am broadcasting. It's good to see. Label BDA out there. Thank you. So yeah, Twitter, like everything around us, it can be very noisy and not really useful. But over here, using the hashtag SustCom for sustainability communication and COVID-19 for the virus, I want to point to you to some things that I think are really exciting. If you're not on Twitter, I think I encourage you to dip in, at least, when you feel you have the energy to. If those of us who are committed to making the world a better place give up on these platforms, then it'll just be more noise and maybe the occasional titillation and distraction, but it won't really be doing anything. But here are some examples that are cool. Yesterday, some teachers and educators began self-organizing. I'll just go to it's called Teach the Virus Syllabus. Oops. Back to Twitter, find it. They're building a syllabus around the coronavirus as a way to offer educators. Oh, look, there we are. Hopefully this is broadcasting. Social cohesion and impact, even as we distance. Make sure people know that we're doing this. So I want to get back to that syllabus. Okay, so here's Seamus Khan, who's the chairman of the Department of Sociology at Columbia University, where I'm working now. And he's actually offering people a portal to post classes they would like to teach. So if you're home, working at home, you've got to deal with your kids and stuff, but you also have enough spare microseconds to offer to the wider community your insights in a class. You can go to this URL and submit it, and it would be vetted, and you're creating a learning community around education, and it'd be online, obviously. And as he says here, the emphasis is fun and active. Please fill out this to propose a course for young people who will no longer have school because of COVID-19. Keep in mind that online interactions will be harder with younger students. Often class participants will have to be placed on mute. That can be true for grown-ups too. Consider structuring your course in ways that have time when you speak and a time when the young people do some work on their own. Courses can be one-offs or more sustained curriculum. And he is personally planning to do offer a course, and there's a calendar for them. on how to chronicle an event like this. So it's a fantastic example of writing, a course in writing and history and sociology. He's going to teach young people how to be sociologists, essentially, in this course, which I think is fantastic. So you might want to follow Seamus Khan and pass that along to teachers you know as well. It's pretty exciting to me to see that. There's another initiative, which is, I'll go to it through the hashtag Teach the Virus, which is I stumbled on yesterday also. And Fausto Sterling, a longtime Brown University professor, someone whose developmental biology course I took back in like 1974, is stimulated the conversation around. I loved what she said here. I've been thinking about the virtual classroom. It seems like a perfect moment to scrap the existing syllabus and teach the moment, which I'm totally with as a writer. No matter the course topic, I could see how plagues, pandemics, and healthcare could become the meat of the lesson. Teach the virus. And it's happening right here 2 hours ago. Well, actually yesterday, a humanities coronavirus syllabus has emerged. As you can see right here, this is actually a different one than the one that was up yesterday. So you can, if you're a teacher or if you're just interested in learning about the full context and dimensions of what we're facing right now, you can go to this, again, on Twitter, which is my favorite platform, really. And you can start to build your knowledge base or share your knowledge base around history, philosophy, films, K-12 resources, relevant syllabi. So this is a great tool that emerged through the community in the last 24 hours. What a great service to all the teachers out there who are struggling to come up with class plans. And it all came through the hashtag Teach the Virus, which was posted by my actually we reconnected recently. I'll call her a friend now. She was a professor of mine in the mid 1970s. So it's so beautiful. I agree. And there are other, see what this has stimulated for educators. I teach a media and globalization seminar at UVA. I'm going to use this framework. So people are sharing tips on how to shape courses around what's happening in the world right now. And the courses don't have to be in microbiology. They're in all the related disciplines and areas of study. So that's just fantastic. Baby Yoda's Chicksaw Auntie. That's quite an account. Let me see who's online here. Joel Shurkin. Hello, man. Thank you for helping me understand that people are out there. Tom and Mitch, Tom Martin, if you have any questions, about what's going on, about sources. Whoops. Someone said you should take your monitor off the ceiling. Looks painful. That's pretty funny. What did she say? Take your monitor off the ceiling. Looks painful. Yeah, this is better. I lowered myself. I'm lowering myself for you. Jeremy Zlar, man, Jeremy, can you share that link to what you're offering the world, man? And by the way, this is a rough sketch of what I plan to do more regularly. But Jeremy Zlar was the blog guru at the New York Times in the mid-aughts, I guess they're called, when I came up with the idea of .earth, and he helped shape my blog into becoming a blog. It was a fantastic experience working with him. Jeremy has worked in the Obama administration in the White House. He works on government websites to make them functional. And he helped to design my .earth initiative, which if you haven't seen it, this gives you a glimpse. It was an experiment at the New York Times. I started in 2007, and that ran for 9 years, 6 of those on the opinion side after I left the paper's staff, and the rest as a news reporter. And it was a blog about how do we head toward 9 billion people or so with the fewest screw-ups. So it's a blog about what we're doing right now, trying to figure out how to head through this COVID virus episode with the fewest losses. And we're not going to get it right, but and so here, Jeremy just posted this link here, remoteteam.work. They're offering 15-minute primers for small nonprofits and other organizations trying to scramble to get online things that they typically do face-to-face. So remote-team.work is fantastic. This will be posted as video afterwards. You can go back and check it out. Joanne McGarry, hey, you're needing to get out in the redwood forest right now. Oh man, can I come with you? One of the best teachers on earth. I often say everything you need to know about surviving on the planet, you can learn in an old growth redwood forest. I think it will be healthy for me to hug a tree. Oh, I'm with you. We were out yesterday and for a walk with our dogs. I'll show you a little bit of, I posted a tweet that you might appreciate, Joanne, and I still can't believe we haven't met face to face. I feel like I've known you for years, which is true, through Facebook. So let me just show you that tweet from yesterday about maple syrup. See if it pops up here. That's not it. Oh, here we go. So we walk our dogs every day, and dogs are wonderful. Pets generally are good interface at a time like this, as everyone who has one knows. Let me close you out here, Joanne. Hopefully you'll see this before you go for your hike. I can't seem to remove your, there we go. So folks, if you can see there, the picture of these, something that pops up on all the trees here in the Hudson Valley right around now is the last thaw happens. Of course, we never really had a thaw. The maple syrup is flowing. And what I said was, my tweet was, on screen break, seeing broader cycles of life unfold, maple sap to human syrup, even as humans face a tsunami-like wave of consequences following a very different interspecies transaction in a Wuhan market in November. It's hard to believe that this all unfolded just since November, but that is the case. And here I just was illustrating that we have all kinds of relationships with the non-human world. It's interactive, and we tend to the trees we care about, and we get supplied with nourishment by them, and so many other earth systems. But biology is this wondrously fulminating process, and its microbes are there in abundance within us, around us. And now that we're so numerous and so globally connected, it's possible for a 1 micron viral particle moving from a bat to another organism and then to person can mutate in a way that exposure is novel, and then that person gets infected. And of course, because of the delay factor, as we've learned, they're not immediately throwing up or sneezing. There's days and days that go by. So that person is infectious, highly infectious for a number of days, allowing the virus to propagate within us, around us. It's been transferred through the air, not just even in sneezes and coughs. And as Mike Osterholm clarified in a conversation with Joe Rogan recently. And here it is, just a couple of months later, it's a global pandemic. And it's reached so far that in the end of winter in Bar Harbor, Maine, the mouse genetics laboratory there, as NPR discussed the other day, is scrambling to come up with mouse varieties that can be used to speed up both a diagnostic tool and a vaccine. So let's see who else we have here. Sally Hall, it's great to see you. I'm not sure. Boy, that's a beautiful picture. Looks like on the coast somewhere. Let us know where you're from. And can you post links or names when you finish this live event? iPhone limits my screen view. Oh, yeah. And also note that this will be archived as a video, so you can go back. It might be hard for me to keep up in terms of posting all the links, but I'll try. Catherine Rosen, hello, hello. Let's see who else is here. Marjorie, Ramesh. Hey, Ramesh, can you join as a guest? I think I sent you a link. I'd love to have you pop up and say hi face to face if you can. Marjorie Petty McGurk, looking for the source of global global plans for pandemics. Oh, well, the thing that is the best source I've seen right now is the website endingpandemics.org. This is the place that seems to be working hardest to come up with concrete strategies, including communication strategies that can help fast track us out of this mess and make sure that we don't settle back into a same old plan. So I go to endingpandemics.org. I'll be writing about this soon. I haven't had time. Let me pause for a second because I want to send Ramesh a link so he can join this conversation, which I think I can. I think you'd all enjoy meeting him. Actually, let me go looking at ending pandemics. Give me a second here. And post questions as well as just saying hi. That'd be great. And I can try to assemble, again, the answers that I come up with. I could just... Hold on. Ramesh, just go to your email. I think I might have tweeted it to you too, the link. I just can't fish for it right now. If you can get on, that'd be great. Otherwise, let me know if you have questions. Ending pandemics is really useful. I was on a conference call with them, facilitated by the Council on Foreign Relations the other day. And the guy who was one of the founders of this, he was also a person who worked at Google and developed Google's flu trends artificial intelligence tool about 2012, which allowed public health folks to track outbreaks of disease by tracking search terms on Google. And you could see these pulses or regional flare-ups of people searching for certain kinds of medications. The privacy was protected, but the data are there, and that allowed folks to get an earlier look at what's arising. There's another website, Flu Near You, which originated from this same effort. That is a way for citizens to directly engage in helping authorities track flu, and they're hoping to get some way to do this with more clarity around the COVID-19 as well. I just was distracted for a second because my son was calling from California, and I'll call him back. Let's see here. So let's get back to Twitter and see what else is in the ether. And again, I'm going to focus on the positive. There's lots of things to rant about. Although I will say Jeremy Zlar, who was on the call a minute ago, he noticed that... One second. Hey there. Where's this? Okay. Jeremy noticed, if you see over here, that a lot of restaurants in the Village last night were in Greenwich Village in New York City. I should be specific. Oh, there I am. A lot of restaurants there were pretty packed, and he pointed to a tool. Let's see if I can go back to it. That's pretty funny. Oh, here we go. the few restaurants on my block in the village were at least 75% full last night. And here someone has charted this. This is problematic. So, and what I noted in reply was that I just had heard Mayor de Blasio here. I could swear New York City Mayor de Blasio announced all restaurants and bars had to reduce occupancy to 50% of what's posted by the fire department. And as he says, it looks like it's 75% at least. I said, sounds like a 311 call and an NYC 311 tweet. So hopefully this is an arena where, again, the public can get involved. And it's like, I remember when dengue fever was, and Zika were explosively growing in headlines and a problem in developing countries. I noticed that folks are using Twitter and, there's Ramesh. Whoops.
Hey. All right.
Folks, I'm just finishing a thought here. There's ways to use social media to identify where there's standing water. You know, if there's buckets in an alley that in New Delhi or in New Orleans where mosquitoes can breed, it's something that can be a geotag piece of information that can stimulate municipal cleanup or the like. So in this case, if you see a bar that's overloaded with people, wherever you are, and if it's way beyond what the laws or the decrees have dictated where you are, then get it on social media and make sure you tag the relevant authorities. In this case, I said it was New York City's 311 account. So, Ramesh, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Ramesh Langani. I'm a biology professor out here in Nebraska. I study sort of climate change biology. So I'm not a virologist. Let me put that out there first. So
neither am I, by the way.
Yeah. So I know Andy through working with him through a podcast called Warm Regards that focuses on climate change. But I've been following Andy for years, reading his work. And so I pride myself on a lot of science communication. So I'm here for whatever purpose I can serve as a scientist, to whatever degree I feel comfortable answering questions. I teach at a small liberal arts college, and so we're dealing with a lot of just like a lot of institutions, really focusing on how do we make this transition and what are some ed tech tools that would help, so I can answer those questions if there's anybody that needs any guidance, to whatever degree that I can.
Had you seen that? I'm not sure if you were on earlier when I just showed this. Ann Fausto Sterling at Brown University had tweeted the hashtag Teach the Virus, and that led to a really great.
I heard you say that. I couldn't see the exact tweet, but I hadn't heard it before you mentioned it.
Yeah, I tweeted it yesterday, and we actually on the blog at the Earth Institute, where I now work, we pulled together some resources like that as well. I'm going to do another piece. I just think it's fantastic to see how learning communities, teaching communities, and learning communities are building online around this already. It's a matter of days. There's experimentation and idea sharing, and I assume that's percolating where you are too.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of discussion around, equity when students are home. What does that mean for, bottlenecks like, do they have good internet access at home? Do they have a laptop at home? And so I think a lot of the challenges around teaching this have to do with the sort of systemic bottlenecks that may or may not exist for our students that might be difficult to make broad assumptions that, oh yeah, they can just go home and hop on the internet, that they might not have as solid access to as they do on a college campus.
Yeah, and let's talk just briefly about science communication.
Sure.
I was going to come out there.
Yeah.
To Lincoln. You're not in Lincoln, right? You're just say exactly where you are, and then
yeah. So I live in Lincoln, but I teach at a small liberal arts college in Crete, Nebraska, which is about 30 minutes southwest of Lincoln. So it's Doane University in Nebraska. And so Andy was going to come out. We were going to have a big science communication conference in a couple of weeks. So I guess maybe the end of next week, are the dates. It's so hard keeping track of what day it is these days. And Andy was going to be a keynote speaker there, and we were going to have workshops on effective science communication, ranging. We're going to have a broad array of audiences from K-12 educators through other scientists, graduate students. We were hoping to get some journalists. We thought that maybe if Andy came out, we'd have a little more journalistic buy-in from local journalists. But obviously, with all of this happening, understandably, we had to postpone the conference. And so it's a great conference. So we postponed it to mid-August. So if you're interested, come back out. But it's but yeah, so that's what we were going to do. We were going to really wrestle with best practices in terms of science communication.
That's great. And I think that demonstrates again that everyone's kind of scrambling to reinvent how we meet, how we convene. And I know any of you out there have a sense that face-to-face really always creates informal exchanges. The hallway thing, the water cooler thing is a real thing. It's hard. I'm hoping in a way that what we can do here, with this particular portal, can be a little bit like that. It's never going to be the same unless, well, I could have a drink here and you could have a drink there, and people coming on board can, if I'd like to settle this into a groove, so I do it, if not daily, at least several times a week, as a way to spur a little more crosstalk, including among platforms. What's interesting about this, if it's working right, is that it's broadcasting to Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. And I think, there are people who are bought in on one platform who might want to poke around. As I said a minute ago, I'm a big fan of Twitter. It still feels like a place where people are really actively exchanging ideas. Although Facebook groups, I know a lot of teachers and others who work in Facebook as well.
Yeah, I've been invited to a number of remote teaching Facebook groups in the last 72 to 96 hours, and so there's a whole bunch of educators just we're just throwing everything up against the wall and seeing what sticks and trying to be as inclusive as possible and acknowledging where limitations are. I think a really great piece that came out, I'm forgetting the link, talked about the idea that all of this transition, we can't have the expectation that teaching online is really now, none of us are really designing an online class, right? We're really just doing triage, and we are just trying to teach online as opposed to teaching a proper online class with proper online pedagogy.
Right.
And so, and I think that's a lesson that's sinking in more and more for me as I think about what are the limitations for my students and what's fair and equitable, and how do we get that information out to our students and still have them succeed?
Yeah, and maybe have them co-learn.
Yeah, right.
This is an arena where young people you're younger than I am, but there are people younger than you are. Who are they might have ideas that we haven't even thought of yet. I almost guarantee it. I just want to share that link. I noticed that I can post comments too, and I was going to share this remote Jeremy Zalar's offer to do to help small organizations. Hold on. Figure out how to transition to online work. It's one of my favorite people, Mr. Zalar here. I think it's remote. Here we go. Let me see if I can pop it up there. Whoops. Whoa. Yeah, remote-team.work is a pretty cool offer. I think we're seeing a lot of this. This is the way the Grange Hall in a town used to work, a village 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Someone say, hey, I can fix that horseshoe. And now a lot more of that has to happen in the next few months if we're going to get through this. So, Ramesh, I also wanted to ask you just generally, what's the vibe there?
Just in the middle of the country.
Yeah. The heartland.
Yeah. I went to the grocery store the other day, and toilet paper was on the toilet paper aisle was empty. So I still don't quite understand that particular thing. Here in Nebraska, I think we are at least in Lincoln or Nebraska, I think we're at 15 cases here in the state. And so I think people are trying to be cautious. I think, my institution, like I said, went online made the move to go online for the rest of the semester. I know other institutions have done a sort of a 2-week, are doing a sort of a 2-week window.
Right.
I think we talk about Nebraska nice out here. And I think what you're seeing with a lot of this, and what's really encouraging is I think across the country, we're seeing a lot of humanity. I think we're seeing a lot of just, hey, we're all in this together. We're trying to build the track 5 feet out in front of the train. And so let's all, let's get rid of the gatekeepers behind tools and information, and let's throw it all out there and see what works for you. And I've seen that out here from my institution, from bigger institutions like UNL. And so, the vibe is there's no panic, people aren't running down the streets with their hair on fire. But I would imagine, I haven't gone to any restaurants, so I can't speak to the level of how packed they are. But again, we're in Lincoln, Nebraska, so packed restaurants have a different vibe than they do in the Village. Like I'm originally from New York, so I know what a packed restaurant in the Village looks like. But yeah, no, I mean, I think the humanity is really coming out. We've been asked if we need anything from the store. I ask my elderly neighbors if they need anything from the store. But the grocery stores are packed on a Tuesday afternoon when they normally wouldn't be. So I actually don't imagine it's much different than a lot of other places in the country. I don't want to say people are scared. I think they're just unsure. We just don't know enough to make decisions on things, right? And so I think everyone's trying to minimize exposure risk as much as they can. And how can I stay in my house? How can I stay in my house to minimize exposure risk and still do what I need to get done?
Right. And what's really wild, we're both science-based, rationality-based people, right? And yet I learned so much about this cultural cognition phenomenon since 2006 when I started writing about it, which explains a lot of what we see. And when you see deep polarization around issues that divides people so far from what the data show on something, that makes you want to tear your hair out. And the latest data are that Republicans are supporting Trump's response to coronavirus. It's like more than 80% think this was great. And I know people who are still kind of wishy-washy, people who are theoretically progressive, who are ignoring the provisos about social distancing. And then there are clearly millions of people out there in this country, whether it's because of what they watch or how they define themselves, who are so far from accepting that there's even something going on. It just blows one's mind. And I keep thinking, well, I should be rational in knowing that people are rational when they're irrational.
Yeah.
Because the science says so, the social science says so. But it still blows my mind. And I don't know whether, that comes up there even in the student body.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't had those conversations, so I can't speak to the level of support for current policies. I also, the other day I was in the grocery store. When I was in the grocery store, seeing that the toilet paper aisle was empty, I happened to be wearing a t-shirt, a biology t-shirt from my college. And so the checkout person asked, "Oh, do you work in a biology lab?" And "Oh, no, I'm a biology professor." And so they asked, I said, "What do you think about all this?" And my quick answer, I was packing up my groceries, and I said, the important thing for us to do is listen to the scientists and not Facebook. And to me, that's where, from a science communication perspective, as a plant ecologist, I'm not going to be able to speak. I have colleagues who are virologists, but from a science communication perspective, I don't want to speak on things that I can't necessarily give good science communication on. So I would defer to experts. I said, let's listen to the scientists and the CDC and not Facebook. But to me, those interactions are actually the most powerful, because I think, and what that also says is that as scientists, as science communicators, we have to make ourselves available in those little spaces, in those little crevices, because I think that little interaction showed that people want this information. even if they don't fully acknowledge that they want it. And so in a space like this, I would say this regardless of whether I was in, red state Nebraska or blue state New York. Um, uh, in that moment, it's better for me to be apolitical than, I could have had that conversation. Well, Trump really is really doing something here, or I could have said, go to cdc.gov, and that's, to me, the best role for scientists to play right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I just was tweeting yesterday and did a video chat with Lori Garrett, who's been covering epidemics since before AIDS, including AIDS, and all through Ebola. She won a Pulitzer Prize in the mid-90s for her book, for her reporting in Newsday, I believe, on Ebola. And she, let me take down, there we go. She wrote a piece in the Lancet that was a cry for the world community. This is, the World Banks and the Gateses and everybody of the world to rethink to look at how little we spend enabling public health agencies to communicate.
Yeah.
So one of the huge, like she said that I believe WHO has one person monitoring social media.
Oh.
One person. I want to double check that. I'm not sure, but that's mind blowing.
Even if it's 5 people.
No, I know.
It's still not enough.
No, I know. And even now, just thinking about at Columbia University, where we have a really good batch of virologists, epidemiologists, public health scientists who are in the media, they're the people who are trying to facilitate that interactivity are working nonstop. And it's a deeply underinvested area. And as she said in that piece also, that you can't Facebook and Twitter can't keep up with this. And nor do they have the in-house smarts to know what's true or not true.
Right.
So it has to be more direct support for agencies to dive into that work. And as you know, with social media, all too often the strategy or the solution is just put out more tweets about how great we are.
Yeah.
Your university, my university, some new paper, right. But it's engagement that matters. It's engagement. It's monitoring. It's taking the temperature of these social media platforms, being willing to direct people in sustained ways toward sort of reality bases hubs.
Right.
It's not just like infographics.
Yeah, I mean, and the challenge with all of this, right, is the information gets so easily lost through, if you hop onto Twitter 5 minutes after some great piece of information was put out, you're never going to see it.
Yeah.
The likelihood of you seeing it is going to be, declines exponentially, especially in times like this, right? So yeah, those algorithms are those, there's how do you prioritize information in the face of those algorithms? And, it's a challenge. I actually have to jump off, Andy, but thank you so much.
No, it's great that you could jump on. It's good to hear from you. I'm sorry I won't be there.
Yeah, no worries.
Another week or so.
Yeah. But we'll be in touch. Hopefully it'll happen in August, and we'll just go from there.
And it looks like I have another guest. It might be Jeremy. All right, take care. Great to see you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Hey.
Hey, Andy.
So everyone,
I'm sorry I missed Ramesh there.
Oh, he's great. He's out in Nebraska, biology professor, and he's a really good communicator. But that's okay. Here you are.
I like to. I've been a follower of his, so but yeah, nice to see you. Thank you for doing this.
So the whole world needs your help, Jeremy. Let me explain. Jeremy Zallar, as I mentioned earlier, I worked with him at the New York Times. He was the manager of our thriving blog enterprise in the zero digits, the aughts, you left around the time I left, 2009, 2010.
I left a little bit later, around like 2014, and
go
do a bit of work with the White House at the time. So
and a big chunk of what you've been doing is enabling government websites, which get huge traffic, be more effective. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah, it's more just make them work better for the public. So that it just means
Right.
like the digital tools and digital ways that we communicate should be more accessible. They should be clearer and easier to read and understand, for whether, regardless of what language you're on, regardless what language you speak or platform you're on, or where you're at. So and yeah, so I've
And
been doing that for like the last 14 years. There's some agencies that got started up to do a lot of that. So one of them's 18F. There's also the Technology Transformation Services and whatnot. So
that's great. And you also were doing a lot of facilitating a lot of remote exchanges among the people who
yeah,
do the
and
work.
actually we're all remote. So like my team is everywhere from like Portland to DC. I'm in New York. There are people in Ohio, Texas, just all across. And basically it's not we really think of it as like a remote first team. That means that even though you might have like a bunch of people in the office, it operates as if everybody is remote. So instead of having those two people that call into the meeting, everybody is calling into the meeting and sharing things remotely. So
that sounds so unlike what we all think the government does. How did that happen?
Actually, well, there's it was very surprising to kind of go into the government and see the way actual feds. I don't think a lot of the public has a whole lot of interaction with like the work that people in the career kind of federal government people are doing, and it was just incredible to see like how much work goes on like around labor and equity, around diversity. Even I work in the GSA building and meeting people there who work on buildings and looking at like how they try to make buildings just better for the environment and can work on those things. So it's just nice to see, people trying to push
That's great.
raise the bar.
So the link you posted earlier is
Yeah,
a pretty big offer, but again, is there a way for us to ramify, or who can help facilitate small organizations, which particularly are going to be tough, facing tough times? And Columbia University has all that heft and size and significant staffing and can work on things. But my wife's NGO is 6 people and trying to help teachers teach better. There's so much work to be done right now in these coming weeks, hours really, to get set for the next coming months. But what's the best way for that to play out?
I think, there's a ton of people sharing resources and information, but that's a very hard thing to follow if you actually don't understand kind of the language around a lot of this stuff. So telling somebody to, just go join Zoom or join a Google Hangout and they are struggling with getting their camera working, that can be hard. So like organizations, small organizations that I've met with, it's everywhere from, we have some remote employees, but our team dynamic is not very, we lack the cohesion we need to feel like together. Or it's organizations that are used to talking to each other in person, right? You finish something and now somebody else needs to take it on to the next step, and they turn around and they say, hey, I'm done with that. So how do they have that? And how does that happen now that things are remote? So
yeah,
there are a wide array of challenges, but I would say that for anybody starting out, like at whatever level that you're at, is like over communicating with everybody you're working with and talking about things, and everything from like, what are the specifics blocking you from like moving forward and feeling productive and confident, and just having a conversation with the people you work with about that, I think starts to open up space to get over those hurdles. So
yeah, like, what would be the 2 suggestions you would have to get started? Like, what are the question? What are the traps people fall into? I get you kind of identify that where you just think, well, let's get Zoom, but is there another, like, what would be the first question to ask that's more of an effective path toward getting this right?
One is setting a schedule to meet. So now you have everybody who's working from home, and there's a lot of questions that employees might have, and everybody might be on the same level around that, or there might be differing levels. But just saying, hey, we're all going to meet at 10, and here's the easiest way for us to communicate. And so that could be a phone call, and could be a conference call, could be just like everybody's kind of calling in together. That is important, because then you can start creating that space to talk about like the challenges kind of right in front of you. Obviously, then having somebody on the team to document, I think, kind of things that you're learning together as a team.
That's interesting.
Creating a space for centralized documentation is the next sort of like critical thing to happen. Because if somebody couldn't make a specific call, or somebody heard something but they want to go back and revisit it, it's about just like memorializing what was said and creating space so that somebody, because I may not have understood something that you were talking about. Maybe you were talking about Zoom, how to set it up, and I need to go back to it. So starting to create that in a centralized place is essential. So that means every time you're talking, somebody should raise their hand to take notes.
That's a great idea. And then, of course, you're also documenting history in a way. If it's an evolution in your organization,
you're documenting growth, yeah.
Right.
And then that documentation has the potential to, over time, if you're doing it, to build up into a handbook. Because once you're talking about something, let's say how to join a video conference thing that you're using, and you find yourself repeating that information, you can put that information in a central place. So then that way, when you have somebody new join, and then they can kind of go and follow some instructions. Relatively simple for that team. But it's not just around technical stuff either. Sometimes it's just about like how we conduct actions around our fundraising, or the 3 of us are working on getting something together, and I will take the first part, you'll take the second part, and somebody else is going to take the third part.
Yeah. And I think what you're also implying is that this is a moment that can break narrative capture. In other words, it's a moment for everyone, whether you're a company or a classroom or a university or a community, to really step back and say, well, we can create something completely different in the way we think about how to be effective.
I think, this is a moment for a lot of creative thinking, and for people to actually come together. I actually find the term social distancing to be like problematic as words. Like, action itself makes a ton of sense and is very important, but I would kind of prefer it to be physical distancing, because I actually think we need more social contact and more connection, connection with other human beings at this time. But that's just semantics. But
right.
But yeah, in government, I'm on a 4-year term, and my term ends in May. So I've been talking to a lot of small organizations about helping them out about how they can work better together, how they can adopt technology. And small organizations generally have a lot of similar problems to government. They overspend in technology. Technology is confusing, and frankly, a lot of the stuff, there's a lot of accessibility problems. So it's not just around, there's a whole degree of just making technology and this type of work more accessible to people, so that they can engage and help make their corner of the world better. So, and then as the virus came around, I was like, well, I think this might be a good way to start helping teams.
So to summarize,
it touches on a lot of things.
So you mentioned take notes, if someone kind of track the process, you can really reappraise your whole functionality, reappraise norms,
Yeah.
notes.
You want to over communication is essential. And
Can you dig in on that? What do you mean when you say over communication?
well, if I schedule a video conference to talk about, let's say something that we're working on together, and we schedule it for an hour, there's no room to talk about like, yeah, I've been pretty stressed out today, or
Right.
my dog has been acting up, or I didn't get much sleep last night because this thing happened. Just like the basic stuff that happens in office, and that stuff
Right.
is essential for just people to connect. So one of the things that is and can be pretty fun is, as you're doing a video conference, is just like taking some time to just say, yeah, this is my house, or hey,
Right.
here's my cat. So just like
Right.
just to see other people, or actually like make coffee while you're talking to somebody, or fold your laundry. Like those are things that are actually okay, that are kind of seem taboo in the work world, but like
Right.
frankly, if we're talking about stuff and I don't like, it's better that I'm actually engaging with you. So I might, like, as opposed to like browsing the web.
Got it. And what's the role
Those
of
things bring more human elements into the space, is all I'm saying. So.
Yeah, and now that's all kind of what I'd call internal communication. Then what about the sharing and the external stuff? Like what I've seen with teachers right now, and I wrote about this a couple of days ago with the Skype a Scientist, which I love, was a self-organizing network of scientists and teachers who just want to connect with each other, so kids can meet a scientist virtually. This is well before the lockdown we're in, and that feels like a great additional benefit, even for an organization with strategies and internal goals. The more they're listening to the outside world as well, it feels, and then engaging that into the closer discussion of, hey, look at the things we're not doing, or
yeah.
So it's really two levels there, I guess.
Well, I do find that most people are afraid of being live on something. They're afraid of being public, right? There's a lot of pressure with being public on something. So how do you get there in kind of gradual steps? One way is actually just by being on video, talking to your colleagues, is one kind of small iterative step towards kind of having these conversations. So if you can kind of do this with your colleagues and have a good, comfortable discussion together, like the next step of actually making that discussion a little bit more live is actually not all that more difficult. You're maybe then creating an Eventbrite. Maybe you're inviting like colleagues from other parts of the organization to it. Maybe you're inviting bits of the public, right? And you can gradually open it up, and the technology really doesn't change. You don't have to like set up chairs. You don't have to invite food. You don't have to like, all that other stuff that happens at a physical kind of event like falls away. Plus you get more room for discussion. So I think that it provides people with like a sense of comfort as to scale up into then speaking their message, whatever their message is, whether it's through Instagram Live or doing online events. And I was talking actually to a friend who is a hairdresser, and she's like, well, what I'm trying to figure out what to do. And yesterday we were talking about her possibly taking house calls again, and what that might be like, and how to do that, and how to test it in iterative ways, and how to maybe start going live actually around some of that work.
Yeah, no, and I have a bunch of friends who are in the performing arts or in related businesses. My friend Jonathan Kruk, who's a storyteller, is doing a GoFundMe thing right now just to get through the next couple of months. Because I'm trying to brainstorm with him on what he can do that may not be like going to a kid's birthday party or an event at a theater, but it's a real challenge for everyone. Come up with new approaches like that. Well, it's good to have you on. And I think, as I said, I'm going to try to do this regularly. I want to try to find a good time of the week or times of day
Yeah,
when
I would.
people can engage. We can figure that out.
I think regularity is a winning strategy, especially in times of chaos. So having something to look forward to, having something to plan for in the day, especially as you're remote kind of working, having more structure is really key. So if you could do this every day, it'd be something to build upon. So
I see no
I'd be
reason
happy
not
to
to.
join.
And I noticed Sarah Mead was asking, she wants to learn more about Skype a Scientist. I'll post some links in a minute. I just did one here. Let's see. I'm not sure if everyone can see the string of comments, but that's skypeascientist.com. I just did a post about it. Sarah, if you're on Twitter, just Google for my name at Revkin and the hashtag Skype a Scientist, and you'd find the piece I did a few days ago, or just Google for Revkin and Skype a Scientist. Basically, if you want to learn what I think about anything, just Google for Revkin and the thing, and it'll pop up usually.
So could I ask you one? Something?
Yeah.
If you do this, what would you think about getting somebody to actually take live notes in a Google Doc during this thing for you?
I love the idea. I've been trying to take some notes.
So maybe we could start a Google Doc that for people can sign up for the day, and
right. Ooh,
then
I
they
like
join,
that.
and there's a doc, right? And that's a Google Sheet that could be open if somebody will volunteer to show up at that time and take notes. So because you're sharing hashtags, you're sharing links, you're talking about things people are saying, and I want to go back to it, and going back to that doc would be a very expedient way to make that happen.
Yeah, and again, this is literally my first time test driving this. Jeremy, this platform feels pretty good to me because it goes out in several different channels at once. You know, I can't do LinkedIn just yet. I just found out I have to pass some threshold there, and I like it a lot. I think the comments are coming in from these different platforms too. There's some from Twitter, some from YouTube, some from Facebook.
Yeah, this is
So I
pretty
really
wild.
like it. And I would love to make sure I can build this practice in a way that has that element as well.
Yeah, I'm really liking this. I've not used it yet, so thank you for introducing me to it.
Someone just asked, can I read Periscope comments? And I'll say yes. Yes, Off-Grid Farmer. Where are you, Off-Grid Farmer? Where are you off-grid? I could look you up on Twitter. I know New York Farmer, one of my favorite farming Twitter tweeps. I guess it's tweeps is New York Farmer. But let's see where Off-Grid Farmer is. And Jeremy, if you have to pop out, let me know. But and also, how's life at home? How's your son? How's everything?
Everybody's good.
How's your son handling this? What's he thinking about it?
Yeah, he's 10, so he's pretty engaged in lots of facts, and but he also has a saturation point. So at some point he'll be like, I'm kind of done talking about this. You've all been talking about this too much. So which is kind of a nice check.
Yeah.
Actually, this morning he does martial arts usually, but and he's not doing that now. But he led us through like morning stretching exercises for about 30 minutes. So that was fun.
That's what I need. Oh man, more than anything. Is his life disrupted completely? Is his school closed?
Well, he's in New York City public schools, and as you all probably know, New York City public schools are not closed yet.
Right.
He was in school last week, but he'll probably stay out next week, regardless of the closing school.
Wow.
So, but what's interesting is that a lot of the teachers sent home a bunch of schoolwork that the kids can do whether or not they're at home or not. So, or at school or at home.
And Jeremy, just a last thing, what have you seen around the internets that excites you? I know you said that it was Open Table that had posted online their data. That's interesting to me.
Yeah, I find that interesting for a number of reasons. So, and I tweeted out a link to this, actually just while you were talking to Ramesh. But Open Table just used actually just a very simple, very low tech Google Doc to publish daily their the Open Table data on the country level and then by state and city level. So you can see basically the number of reservations, you know, all the way going down to each city and kind of their relative decline. And something you should know about Open Table is it's not just you making a reservation. A lot of restaurants use it to book tables and kind of track their performance, even if that's a restaurant that doesn't take reservations. So
interesting.
Like walk-ins, for example,
wow,
also get tracked. Yeah, it's pretty wild. But it's also really great though that they were just like, this information needs to be out there and can help people make better decisions.
Yeah.
And they just opened it up, right? So like,
wow.
You know, if I would hope that that people who are in the civic space know about this, and especially if you're trying to whether you're looking at how do we support small businesses during this change, what is their impact, type of questions, to trying to keep people out of restaurants and bars. So
right. Well, the more the better. And then, as I said earlier, you know, I'd like to see if people see restaurants that are clearly above the 50% threshold that I believe is in effect. You know, that's what 301 is for. That's what public eyes are for. That's what the community is for, is to
it is. It feels a little strange though doing that in the village when you kind of know the people that run the restaurants. So, and you're like, you know, you know them by name, and so that's a bit tough. But then again, you know, there's still tons of people not at an evening. So I don't.
Yeah. And it's you know, and it's what's his name? Devin Nunes was being punished on Twitter right now for encouraging people to go out and have fun.
Yeah, encourage. Yeah,
and you know, you can with social distancing. It's still possible to eat out. We're trying to eat out a little bit. Otherwise, life gets hard. But you know, then it gets down to this question of being careful. You know, choosing a restaurant that has space. Thinking about airflow. Thinking about sitting, you know, apart from other people. I don't think we're quite at the point where everything should stop. But
well, there was a good piece, I believe, in the Atlantic on the ethics of eating out or ordering in or whatnot. Like, how do you, as a consumer, as somebody who wants to support small business, how can I go about thinking about that? So,
right.
You know, should I be doing delivery? How do I handle it? How do I, you know, show empathy towards the delivery person? They have to be out, that type of stuff. So I'll find the link and paste it in. It's a pretty good read on that. It was very helpful.
That's great. And you're in Greenwich Village, right? You're not in, you were in Brooklyn for a long time.
Yeah, we were in Brooklyn. Now we're in the West Village. So
yeah. And I just noticed a comment from the Climate Music organization that I've been involved with. I guess the movement here to buy gift certificates, I assume that's somehow helping support musicians through this tough time to get their music, which is a good idea. Again, I know lots of people who rely on touring, and this goes from a guy who plays with Roger Waters to my friends who are local Hudson Valley musicians. They're all facing a huge disruption of the way they do their work. and that's
Well, I would
tough.
just as you're talking about like how various scientists come together or the educators come together to talk about better ways to handle this, and then they centralize information. Like, I would personally like to see that happen around, like, let's say local restaurants and what they could do, and just so you can talk about common challenges, talk about common pain points, and potentially come up with some ideas to get through this.
Yeah, the sociologist at Columbia, Seamus Khan, he's cobbling together. He has an idea that we could use virtual connectivity to. Well, sorry, I didn't mean to have everyone's eyes explode seeing the same thing here. I just wanted to. Hold on, I'm going to add something here. Currently talking about how.
I will say that through my wife and I do a lot of work with the Brooklyn Rail, and
I love the Brooklyn Rail.
So the rail has generally has artists come and talk at lunch in their offices in Brooklyn, and artists and people who are in the arts community, and we're trying to put together a poetry reading online that people can join. That's just 30 minutes with artists from around the world and kind of connect. So, people need to break away from kind of the infinite stream of news and fear and whatnot. And you need to kind of connect with other humans. So we're going to try to put that together.
So it's not scheduled right now?
Not scheduled yet, but
You reminded me of something. I'll see if I can get to it in a minute. Let's see here. If there are any other questions that have come in. Oh, yeah. Climate Music is saying gift certificates for restaurants and musicians too. Obviously, delivery for sure. And I do know, like, let's see here. I do know, like Mike Marshall, who is a great mandolin player, who was on my one and only album, but that was like for him a tiny thing. He plays with everyone famous. He tutors online. He's been tutoring mandolin via Skype for years. And I assume that's, more and more musicians are figuring out ways to do their thing. Some of which ends up being virtual. It's so much more efficient for him, to have, he can be a tutor for a mandolin player. He lives in Oakland, California, but he can tutor a mandolin player anywhere in the world. So that gets at this, going online is not always a compromise, because it can give you a much bigger audience for your work or your skills.
And you're talking about like entrepreneurial type of actions, right? Like where teaching or where there's a transaction involved, but like, you might even, as a musician yourself, you might even explore during this time, just setting aside some time to play with people.
Yeah.
And just putting it out there as music and joining. And even if it's just like you all playing at distance, like that's
or outdoors when it's
nice.
Yeah, no, I know. Believe me, I know. So here's Mike. I just noticed there's Artist Works, which must be obviously it's a website that serves as a transactional tool for musicians and other artists. That's pretty great. There's lots of ways forward. That's going to be a hybrid approach to life. There always has been. Well, since the internet, so much of life. It's not like some of us want to just turn it off and go walk in the woods, and I do that too. But I think we're at a point where it's pretty obvious the world can be fast-tracked toward better outcomes using online conversation, online connectivity, sharing, not just sharing ideas, but shaping ideas, shaping insights, bringing skill sets together. The sociologist I mentioned, Seamus Khan, he described a sociological phenomenon. He called it holes, some kind of hole. There are these holes in the universe that I used to just think of as just gaps there. I know through my life as a journalist, the reason I migrated more and more with Jeremy's help toward blogging was because I realized half the time I was really just saying, hey, you should talk to you. You over here should talk to you. And I would see these gaps. And I think they can be filled at the water cooler, and that's not going to be so easy right now for a while, but they can be filled much more efficiently and powerfully online. And what I'm doing in the new initiative that I'm building at Columbia is similar to what I did on my blog. And the blog was, how do we navigate amid complexity toward a better world? Often sharing insights. Here in Madagascar years ago, I wrote about how drones are delivering medicine to remote villages in Madagascar, which really does illustrate a mix of technologies can make a huge difference. And at Columbia, just maybe we'll close out in a few minutes so I can get out into the actual world, and you all can too. Off-grid farmer who's in Idaho says there's a balance that can be had between online community and local community. Both are important. That is so well said. And
one of the things that I think has been effective about everything you've done, Andy, like whether it's from stuff on the blog or through the Earth Institute, is that you're not just talking about technology or the medium itself. You're talking about you talk about the impact first, the thing that is being changed about society, and then you talk about the medium or how that's happened, because that's a big part of it. But
right. Well, I just I learned partially from my wife, Lisa McKaylee, who's a science teacher and now educates teachers in how to build sustainability into their teaching. It's outcome-based learning, and sometimes the outcome is not someone learning a fact. In fact, often it's learning a trait or learning a capacity, learning not learning calculus for the sake of calculus, learning calculus because it matters to some particular goal you have, knowing what you need to learn, and then going out there and getting at it. Actually, I'll show you, because our Idaho farmer friend brought it up. He had a question. There's this hashtag farm hack that he might want to check out. I'm assuming, I shouldn't assume it's a he. Whoops, where are we here? Yeah, I learned about this from some young farmers I met at the Stone Barns Center for Sustainable Agriculture. The hashtag farm hack is a community online of farmers who are trying to figure out sort of a mix of technology and tradition that can create sustained profits and reduce labor costs, their own costs, because often it's the farmer who is doing the work. It's just really great to see that community build. Again, 100 years ago, that would have been at the seed store or the Grange Hall, and now it's online. And it can be both. It has to be both in the end. So the program I'm doing is at Columbia. I'm starting a blog there. I'm actually trying to convince Jeremy. I'm trying to convince the Times to restart .earth, which I think would be pretty cool. But that's taking a little bit of time because they're not really into blogs right now. So we'll see. I wish it was a different name. It's not a blog, really. It's a property. It's an activity.
It's a place for people to convene.
Yeah, like this. Here's the last question from Austin, where I was supposed to be right now, Sally. I was going to be running a panel I had proposed at South by Southwest on community communication impact. How do we foster the capacity of communities to share and shape ideas with others around clean energy resilience? And I'm trying to figure out, we're going to make that conversation happen online. So your question, the picture of the cliffs is from Cliffs of Mother in Ireland. Oh, or the picture in the background. Yeah. Thanks for having this discussion. I'm enjoying seeing facets of the community of practice for science communications and education. Well, I'm glad you're here. This was kind of an experiment, like .earth was. And we'll get it right. We're just going to let it iterate and work it out, a little feng shui-ish. Let's see, send out lists of people we can text or email with questions, skills we need. Well, you can use me. There's an email address now, sustcom@columbia.edu. sustcomm@columbia.edu is my sustainability communications initiative, and just make sure you put my name in there, and it'll get to me. I'm trying to set up a listserv, an active, open one that we can all use to make this conversation happen better. Back at .earth, there's I do have the comment string here. At Revkin on Twitter, a lot of people who you'll hear on here as guests will be on Twitter. Like Jeremy is Jeremy Zilar, Zilar, at Jeremy Zilar, and we can make sure we have a way for everyone to communicate with each other. And there's climate.
I'm happy to help you set some of those tools up too.
Oh man,
people around this. So let's talk about that. And
I am a little, yes, I'm overdue. I know exactly what I need. So let's talk offline. Well, maybe we'll call it there. We've gone longer than an hour. This is really cool. I think it's going to work. I feel happy. I hope you all felt like it was good to drop by. Jeremy, it was great to have you on. Ramesh,
thank you so much.
Off-Grid Farmer, Sally, awesome. So thank you all. And I may actually be on the end of the day with a couple of people who study global risk. So that I think we're going to try around 5 p.m. This was sort of a test drive. And that's Jeff DeBelco, who ran the New Security Beat blog for the Wilson Center for a long time. And Rod Schoonover, who was in the National Security Council. He's the one who quit when the Trump administration got to clamp down too much. And Alice Hill, who was a National Security Council member under Obama. So around 5 p.m., and I'll send out a note around that too. And be a tiny bit less ragged than this one, but and each day we'll just get it better and build the conversation. Thank you all. I should have, I should have my banjo here so I can. I'll sign off each one with a musical. I thought I had my guitar. I'll do that tonight. All right. Hey, Jeremy, thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Talk soon. See you online.
Bye.